7 o'clock according to the computer. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll go through a roll call here real quick. If we could look at the folks on Zoom.
We have Euless Rayburn, who is the contractor on this, the variance, Carolyn Bowers, and Jay Kita.
Okay, thank you. And if you now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Trustees, anything? Staff? If there's no corrections, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve the agenda as written.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the agenda as written. All in favor, say aye.
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 Moving on to item number 3, persons present not on the agenda, and we'll give you 3 minutes per. Do we have anyone signed up that would like to speak?
No one signed up. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak, including Zoom people? If it's related to the STR, then we'll do that then. Okay, all right. Anyone on Zoom wish to make a public comment? Not seeing anything.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, our consent agenda for minutes from June 28th, 2022. Any corrections? If there are no corrections or comments, I'd entertain a motion on that one.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, including the minutes from June 28th, 2022.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve our consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Moving on to item number 5, it is 7:02, and we will open our public hearing for the variance on the land use application number 2022-0608 for 11115 Midland Avenue.
And I can just give a quick background. This variance was triggered due to a deck replacement that originally had a slightly different footprint than the original deck. So the original deck was there, it's falling down, it's dangerous. They moved to develop or put in a new deck. And because it is new construction and because it is within the front 15-foot setback as defined, then that triggered a variance process. So this went to Planning Commission at the last meeting and was approved. I should mention that the deck, as originally presented to me, had a design that was getting very close to the front property line. And so I expressed the concern to the contractor and the applicant, and they agreed to basically bring that back to where it more met or was closer to the original footprint, which essentially are stairs that go down from the deck onto the front side of the house. In both cases, the deck has always been within that 15-foot front setback. Staff doesn't have any concern with this at this time. You'll vote on it in the next item. However, I do know that we have a contractor online, and I believe Mr. Shapiro is in the audience if you have any questions for them.
Okay, trustees, any questions for either the applicant or staff?
And I should mention, I've received no public feedback either way.
Did we have anyone in the public here that wished to address the board on the matter? Quick public hearing. I have 7:05, so we will end the public hearing at 7:05. Our next item is item number 6, the consideration of the variance that we just had the public hearing on. And if there's, again, any questions, comments from trustees, please let me know.
I'm bringing up the plans here, just if you guys want to see that at all. But as I mentioned, staff has no concerns with granting this variance and would recommend approval.
So just to clarify, I think I read that the footprint is the same. Is that correct?
It's very close. The plan, if you see here, this is the area that where these steps are coming down. The original deck also had steps in this same area. In fact, there's a picture that shows both somewhere. But so here's the old is down here on the white deck. You can see it had those stairs coming down. So this has a slightly different design, but the original design I received had the steps coming more down towards the street.
Okay.
And so it was actually getting, as it is here with them being close to the front or along the front of the house, it's still within 7 feet of the front property line. The original plan I received had the steps coming out, so it was literally getting within a couple feet of, so I expressed concern with that. That's essentially what triggered the variance in the first place, because that differed from the original footprint, even though that's also kind of a gray area of needing a variance, which is something we're addressing with the new land use code. But nevertheless, that you can see the differences here between the two designs.
Trustees, any further questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
What motion to approve the new variance?
Sorry,
The
it's
address.
2022-0608.
2022-0608, 11115 Midland Ave.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the variance for variance number, 2022-0608 for 11115 Midland Avenue. Hope we got enough ones in there. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thanks. Thank you to Ulyss Rayburn and Mr. Shapiro, and I'll stamp those plans tomorrow.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 7 now.
Okay, so let me preface this quite a bit. So this is an appeal to a short-term rental application. And despite the fact that, you know, there's been a lot of back and forth between the property owners in this situation, I'd just like to remind the board that staff and the board has some very few guidelines to go off of as far as short-term rental approval. And all of the criteria had essentially been met. There was a parking plan submitted as part of the application. Today was the actual approval date for the application. We knew that ahead of time. So Ms. Snow, who is appealing the application, requested the parking plan, which is public record, as part of the application. So I provided that to her, and then she followed up with some photos sent to me about showing that area specifically. And that area contained a shed and a trailer that was parked there. So I did have concerns on whether the number of vehicles, essentially 5 total vehicles for the 2 Airbnbs, could fit in that space. So all that happened last week. That's the concern regarding parking that I mentioned in this memo. Brad Miller, Mr. Miller, and Chris, are here tonight as well. They followed up with me today and with some further information about the parking. And that's the packet I handed to you all with the updated photos, which show that shed and trailer both being removed. So as far as staff goes, that was kind of the only criteria that we were concerned about. And we approved the application this morning, or this afternoon, actually. So that's the appeal process. It's kind of the timeline was a little awkward because the appeal process says a person can appeal within 30 days of the approval. All parties involved knew that the approval is going to happen today. And so we knew that they wanted, there's an appeal that wanted to move forward tonight. So I don't know who wants to start the discussion, but I would just say that one, after the further information on parking, staff has no concerns with approving it at this point. I would, however, say that this is kind of a case study about maybe some things that the board could look at for future short-term rental policy. Specifically, I know Ms. Snow had some concerns about septic, and she'll probably address those, but we don't have anything specific in our code to this point that has that a requirement for approval or disapproval.
Did we want to move into public comment at this time?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we'll go ahead and move into public comment. And if anyone's doing public comment, we'll have you go up to the mic, make sure the mic's pointed at you, and this little blue light.
I don't even know what I'm gonna say. My name is Marilyn Brown. I live at 10975 Falls Avenue. No?
Yeah, you need to turn that.
Do I have to do that all over again?
Yeah.
Marilyn Brown, 10975 Falls Avenue. I live just below Brad. And we have had quite a few discussions with Brad. He's tried to help us with the problems that we've had. Our particular cabin, which we've owned for 22 years, has 4 VRBOs on every side of us. And this will be the 4th. So we could tell you lots of stories about what's happened with us. In fact, Saturday night, the VRBO in front of us had people with flashlights running around trying to find the address, and trucks coming in and out trying to figure out where it was. So we're not just complaining about Brad, we're complaining about the lack of formulation of something that the poor Marshall can follow it, because he has been up several times. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is to help you formulate some kind of a plan that will tell us whether we have a right or whether they have a right or what's going on. So I think I just want you all to know that it is a problem. There have been a lot of people talk to us and haven't talked to you. And that we really need to straighten this thing out somehow. And we would be more than happy to help in any way we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. And I would also mention that July 26th at 6:30 p.m. is when we're going to have actually a public meeting about this at Sally Bush. More public commenters.
Well, not to get us off track, but the issue is a lot larger than just Brad's application. Where we're remiss as a community, and Todd and I've talked about this, is we have virtually no rules to police this VRBO deal. Now, Marilyn and I are a little edgy because we've been terrorized on this VRBO thing for the last couple of years, particularly in the summers. And several months ago, she was threatened, not by your people, but down below us. And we shouldn't have to live with that. So there needs to be a process of some sort where we can get back with the community, get back with all of you. I don't know whether this is something that the town marshal needs to deal with, whether somebody else needs to deal with it, but it's a quality of life issue for those of us who live here. And we shouldn't have to put up with it, period. So that said, I'm going to let all of you who are working to make the community better find out how we deal with it, but we've got to have a way to police it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the comments. We have more public comments. No, by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I do run a timer up here, so I give everyone 3 minutes.
Oh, we're doing the 3-minute thing?
Yeah,
Oh, mine's gonna be more than 3 minutes because I'm gonna ask for pictures and whatnot that I had sent in. If Nate is able to do that.
I don't know that we have to keep it to 3 minutes on an appeal
Yeah,
situation, but it's up to
Trustees.
the board.
trustees.
I'm okay to listen.
I will
if
go
everybody else is.
short. I only have 3 points.
Okay, okay.
I think you
Trustees,
should go as long
okay.
as you need to, just.
Okay. Kathy Snow, 10963 Cottage Street. I've lived here for 21 years. I moved here for a quiet residential neighborhood, which did include a yearly renter across from me and a resident that was full-time. Now there are 2 VRBOs. My number 1 point is, I want a neighborhood. I did not move here to be next to 2 full-time businesses, and that's what they are. They crank over as soon as one leaves, one comes in, especially in the summer. There's a different mentality that goes with VRBOers. They're on vacation. The behavior is totally different than a resident. Sometimes, most of the time. So I really feel like we like Marilyn and Gary. They're surrounded by 4. That's just ridiculous. How do they feel like they're in a residential neighborhood that way? I have 2. I'm concerned about the parking still. I knew they were going to get rid of the shed. I knew they were going to get rid of the trailer. But when you measure it, it's 39 feet across. The depth is very narrow. I have seen 1 car not be able, not since the changes have happened, but when the other things were in place, I've seen 1 car not be able to get out easily. Is that one picture up that he sent in with the X's on it where the that one? Okay, so I take it the one on the left, the parking space on the left is going to be right in front of the garage. Okay, that person pulls in from over here, the dedicated in and what's the other word for going out? And then egress, ingress and egress. So they pull in straight in there. If there's cars there, they have nowhere to turn around. They have to back up all the way out and then out the driveway. Same thing if somebody's parked there. How are they going to get out? There's not very much depth there, and you have to crank your wheel to be able to go out the driveway. I can see maybe 3 cars being able to be there and get in and out, okay, if they park far enough apart. But right now, there's somebody parking sideways because they're not comfortable parking front because on one side it drops off on the parking lot and the other side drops off. And when they pull in, it drops off right into where my car is parked. I look up out of my kitchen window and I see cars lined up. So there's not a lot of room, and some of them are afraid they're going to go over, what do you call those? The railroad ties. And they're just uncomfortable a lot of the time being in the mountains. I've helped people move their cars, do different things because they were afraid or they got stuck. Maids have gotten stuck on the railroad ties. And I was kind and I went to the neighbor and I said, can you help us get her car off of the top of the railroad ties? I've done a lot of things to be supportive and kind because the people don't know any better. They don't live up here. So I still say there's not enough room, definitely for 5 cars. How are they going to get out? If the ingress egress that he has marked is over there, first 2 cars on the left can't get out. The next 3rd car from the left can possibly, if they're really good, turn and get out. It's very tight. My only other topic is the septic. When I went online, the last time there was a permit for that septic was 1974, El Paso County. I went in today. I'm not sure that they are totally up to date on their website. Perhaps Brad knows more about it because that's all I could find. And I couldn't even find mine on my property. So I don't think the website may be up to date, but I'll give you a copy of what I got. There's a 600-gallon tank, which is enough for 2 people. And it goes for 2 houses, not just 2 people. But I don't understand the paperwork. There could be more because it shows, I'm not sure if they're showing a second tank, which is what I heard was there with an attachment for overflow or something. I don't know, or if that's the leach field or whatever on those pictures. But obviously, if it's only a 600-gallon tank, it's very inappropriate because I have a 1,500-gallon tank for 2 people. So the septic does, and it smells a lot. It'll permeate for 4 houses. We'll smell it. And I know it has an aerator on it. The 2 owners ago, he would spew the refuse all over the ground to get rid of it because it would overflow. And it did overflow a few times when the 2 owners ago. So I think that's why Larry, the previous owner to Brad and Chris, had something done, but not permitted, or the permit's just not showing up. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay,
Any questions? From y'all?
trustees, any questions? Okay, I clocked in at about 6. Oh, did you?
So just so I'm tracking here, so we're all, you guys have amicably come up with a resolution for this, 2 cars in that particular parking space. Is that correct? How it worked out today?
My comment was, are you asking
Yeah.
me?
All the above, I mean.
I know nothing about that.
Okay.
My comment was that the pictures I received from Kathy last week showed the shed and a trailer parked in there. So my concern was that these 5 parking spaces were not really available. Brad sent me pictures today, which is the packet I gave to you, that shows the shed and the trailer gone, therefore making more space for 5 spots. The one, I forget which is which, but one, the already existing short-term rental, I believe, has 2 or 3 spots, 2 spots. And then the new application has specified 3 spots on it. So for a total of 5 for both properties.
And my question is, how are they going to get out? Sure, you can park those cars there, but they're never going to get out.
So I just would like some clarification about which issues are about the property itself and which ones are about the STR. I mean, this like the septic sounds like more of a property issue than an STR issue.
So I sent an email with a bunch of complaints and possible ways to make things better in an email to y'all the last time I was here. And I think Nate has that in his packet that he probably gave to you. So that would be the STR complaints.
Okay.
Property complaints, STR complaints, I'm not sure, it's not all rolled into one. Number one, I just don't want businesses. Number two, the septic and the parking.
Were there issues, did you have any issues with the property before it became an STR? With past owners or?
Yes, with the septic, it would overflow and it would stink. I mean, 2 or 3 times, and I did not know I could have called El Paso on it and had something done. So to remediate, the old owner, Tim McLean, put an aerator that would spew the refuse all over the land and make it work better. And then the next owner, Larry, did something else. And whatever's been done has frozen from non-use at one time. I mean, it's gonna have to be pumped a lot just because there's so many. I mean, right now there's 6 or more people. I don't know how many people in the bottom one right now. And if that's a 600-gallon tank, which I don't know, only Brad would know probably, that's just ridiculous.
So as a continuing STR, how many vehicles would you want to see on the property in that, given those parking
I
spaces?
think only 3 could manage, and you'd have to be pretty far apart because you have to do a total 90-degree turn to get out of the driveway.
Okay. Now, is this something that that the owners of that particular property would want to discuss, like may compromise, come together and
Well, I was going
resolution
to
to one another?
suggest that this would probably be a good time for the Millers to respond to some of the issues, and then we could still continue Q&A
And
for
so
both
that you
parties.
know, I did try to talk to him on the phone or in person, and I got a short text and he didn't take me up on it. So this is my last resort.
Okay.
And I have made other suggestions that were never mentioned or said yes or no to, like have people come by 10 o'clock, not 2:30 in the morning and all that kind of stuff. I've had very interesting people come in the middle of the night. I mean, just simple things. He did fix the light, which was a huge issue.
That was shining. I read that was shining into your window, I believe, of your bedroom. Is that correct? Okay.
Bedroom and kitchen, yeah. And I do have blackout shades. I got them over a year ago because of the problem and
Okay.
because of how lit up when they keep all the windows open, the VRBO renters. That's one way they have a different mindset. You know, the windows are all lit up and I work on the weekends and I tend to go to bed by 10 o'clock.
Okay. So he did help you with that.
He did help with the light that was on the garage.
And just to confirm, you like the idea of 3 vehicles as opposed to 5.
Definitely.
The septic is obviously something that couldn't probably be done overnight, but that's something that the
Well, I
parking
don't
is a
know
big
what
deal
Brad
with you.
knows about it. So, I
Okay.
mean, he might know more than I know.
Okay.
So it may not be in the condition it is now, but it wasn't permitted or they haven't put it in the system at El Paso.
And also for the record, when's the last time you had issues with the smell of the septic?
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Okay.
Yep. As soon as a bunch of people get in there, the aerator starts going off. And it's only maybe 25 feet from my house. And it goes down to the people below. And if they were here today, they would tell you the same thing. That's their number one complaint about the VRBO is the smell. And it also goes to my neighbor behind me and across Iona to them when it's really going good. So I just can't even imagine what the smell is going to be like. If there's more than 2 people there, well, there were only 2 people here when it was smelling 2 days ago. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know what's underground there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. And I tried to call the sheriff and ask him about the smoking pot because that happened again last week, 2 feet from my property, sitting there smoking pot in the rain at 7 o'clock in the morning. I never got an answer from the sheriff. It makes it hard to open your windows in the summer. And all those things are listed in my complaints and suggestions.
Okay, trustees, thank you. I started and stopped, but I clocked roughly about 9 minutes. So we would give the the Millers equal time.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I don't think we'll need it, but
Okay.
I do appreciate that. So I did provide comment, and I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to read my responses to Ms. Snow's concerns, but I did address each and every one of those in a follow-up. And so rather than go through the myriad of those responses, because I think you can take time to read those at your leisure, but I think addressing the key issues that have come up over time is really important. Can you hand me the survey there, please? Thank you. So, I'll address the parking. Ms. Snow herself said the only way people can get into those parking spots and get out of them would be to back up. That's true. People can get into the spot and they can back out of my driveway. That should not be an issue. Most people have a parking camera in their vehicle now anyway, but irregardless, anyone who can drive can actually pull into those spots and can back out. If you can show the pictures that I provided after the pictures taken by Ms. Snow, are they?
They have paper copies
Oh, they have paper
of
copies.
this.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. You can look at the paper copies and see those pictures. By the way, Ms. Snow did not request my permission to come on my property to take the pictures that she took. And so I just want to make note of that. Because had she asked that of me, probably would have allowed her to do that. Because for most of these issues, we've been very amicable and we've addressed them. One of the first things I did with Ms. Snow is I provided her with my cell number. One of the first things I did when I first met the Browns is I gave them my cell number to contact me if they have an issue, and they have. And we've attempted to address those as they've come. No matter how difficult, no matter what time of night, no matter what time of morning, we've handled those situations to the best of our ability. We've attempted to provide the lightest footprint we possibly could. We understand that this is an issue. We understand that this is a challenge when there are people coming in and out. I empathize with the position Kathy has, but I've attempted to provide every possible deference that I could give to her, up into the fact that even though the slit of land that she refers to as her parking, as her driveway, is actually a perpetual non-exclusive easement as deemed by a land survey. Now, if I can approach, I can show you the land survey so you can see the survey, the blown up portion, because the copy portion is very difficult to see the designation. But if I can approach, I can pass this along and you guys can look at the survey. The portion that is in question in terms of what she refers to as her driveway, and this has been a dispute since the very beginning, is this, it's this section along here, which is, as you can see, a perpetual non-exclusive easement. Okay, she refers to this as her driveway because it was deeded to her by a neighbor in order to provide her enough land so she could build a fence on her property. Because her property was not large enough to have a fence on. So she needed additional land that was deeded her by one of the neighbors previous to the area. Okay, I can pass this along so you can see it. And the reality of easements is, as you all know, is most easements are owned by somebody, but they're easements that are provided for the purposes of utilities or something of that nature. In this case, this is a perpetual, meaning forever, non-exclusive, meaning for everyone in that area to be able to access easement. It was the originally, it was the only way to get in and out of my property, which is landlocked, other than that easement and an additional easement that was later provided to the property by the neighbor above us. And that is now my driveway. That is the driveway that exits and enters Iona Avenue. At her request, we have demanded that all of our guests only use the Iona access. Out of deference to her, even though I knew from the very beginning, based on the land survey, that this property, this portion of her property was a perpetual non-exclusive easement that we could use, and that anyone that we gave permission to use could use, because it is just that. It's a non-exclusive easement. She's complained about the Browns giving access to people to that easement and taking access to the easement, saying that it's her driveway. I've offered to pay for the grading of the driveway. I've offered to go in half when she said you don't need to do that. I said, well, I'll go in half. I'll whatever you need, I will help you with that. She's never taken me up on it. And so I'm not sure what more I could do. What I found at some point was there was nothing I could do to please Kathy. Just at the end of the day, there was nothing there. I couldn't go far enough to actually accomplish what I'd hoped to accomplish, and that was have some comedy between us. It just doesn't exist. And even so, I mean, I still respond to her emails and to her texts. And she said I didn't respond to her last text, and I have a series of texts that show that I actually did respond to her by just simply saying, I have applied for a short-term rental license. I'm allowing the process to go forward. And in deference to the process, I'm going to continue to move forward. I don't feel like I owe her an explanation of why, what, and how. I don't feel like I need to ask her permission. I would like that we would be able to come to some agreement on this, but at the same time, I realized that before I ever started that I was going to have a battle on my hands. The very second time I met Kathy, she made it very clear that she would fight any short-term rental license, that the first one, second one, any additional, she was going to fight me on any attempt to have a short-term rental property on the premises. It was witnessed by my real estate agent at the time. My real estate agent was with me, and he provided comment today as well. He couldn't be here, but he witnessed and he overheard the conversation where she threatened to do anything she could to keep us from getting a short-term rental license. And I just let her know that I would try to work with her as best I can. You mentioned earlier, and I think everyone is I'm in agreement. The town needs regulations for short-term rentals. I would be willing to help with that. I'd be willing to jump on board with a committee and be a voice from the short-term rental owners because I believe they should be regulated. The issue with marijuana, no one is harder on the issue of marijuana than I am. We mentioned no fewer than 4 times in our communication with our guests that it is prohibited. They get one warning, and the next time we have an issue with it, we start eviction. We've never had to go that far. We have had to warn people, but we've never had to go that far. And most of the time, every time we've had to address it, Kathy's brought it to my attention. She did not bring this last one to my attention. We would have addressed it. And I can't imagine, I guess it's possible, I can't imagine even one of our guests being just 2 feet from her home smoking pot, given I just think that is a stretch. And unfortunately, that's what I found with Kathy, is much of the accusations that she levies are exaggerations. Okay, all right. So I'll finish up here. I've shown you the land survey, right? That was critical to me. Regarding the parking, my position is folks can back out of our parking spot, right? However, given the issues and given the concerns about it, I met with my neighbor above me, Mike Abeda, at 10967. Mike and I had a conversation and we wrote up a memo of understanding that's been provided to you to provide overflow parking for guests should we need it. In the rare occasion that we should need overflow parking, Mike Abeta has provided us the ability to utilize his park or his driveway and the section next to his garage for the purpose of overflow parking. So if we have an issue, then we can certainly access that.
And I should mention, I did receive that. It didn't make it into that printed copy, so I apologize, but I did receive that signed MOU.
So I'll take any questions if you have them.
Trustees, questions? Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Oh, I will address the septic. Very quickly, I have a deck that sits 3 feet from that septic system. If anybody has a vested interest in ensuring that the septic doesn't smell, it's me, because the worst thing that I could have is a guest make a comment on VRBO or Airbnb that our house smells because of the septic system. That's the worst thing that could happen. And so we're diligent. We're hyper vigilant with that. We put bacteria into that septic every week during the summer, every 2 weeks during the winter months. Okay. And when I can go on, if you need me to do this, I can go on and print off every single comment that's come through those different vacation rental sites. And there's never been one comment about the septic, not one. So that's really all I have to add about that. I think that if we need to have a discussion further about it, I'm glad to have that. But we've not had issue with it with our guests, and that's the first place I would start, is that our guests would be the ones to bring that to our attention. And so
So I do have a couple questions. How many guests do you receive in the summer on average?
on average, we'll have on average we'll have 5 nights a week that are taken, with an average. I would say if you add the folks that have 6 people that come, we're probably averaging three a night, 3 people a night, I would say.
How many occupants on average each night?
That would be it, 3 occupants per
3
night.
occupants?
Yeah, on average. Now, understand, up until 6 weeks ago, my wife and I were living in the upper house, the one that this application is for. We were living there full time. We're a blended family. Between the 2 of us, we have 8 children. And so at any given time, we could have a significant number of people at our property, but we were there full time, using the facilities full time.
And that particular residence that we're talking about, the 5 nights a week, 3 occupants a night, do you have washing machines and things like that?
There's a washing machine. There's a washing machine in that unit, as well as the upper unit 10971.
Yes.
When we
Please,
ma'am. Sure. When we first purchased the property, it did have a septic issue and we addressed it right away. We smelled the odor. It was a concern of ours. We addressed it with the inspection and had people come out and look at it. And I apologize if people are having odors. We have not had an issue for at least 2.5 years of smelling anything. There might be a rare occasion. I can only think of one time in the last 1.5 years that when I walked down the stairs, I was like, oh, and I said, maybe we need to put another treatment in. And we do that not down by the septic system. It goes in the commode and we add bacteria that way.
Right.
So, like he said, if there is an issue, we need to know about that, but it's not anything we have seen when we have in the past.
So they have brought it to our attention each time. We've immediately said, okay, it's time for us to put more bacteria in the system. So we've immediately addressed it.
So how many gallons is your septic?
That's a great question. I think Kathy's right.
It's probably about
not
600.
Much documentation. No, right in the sense that there's not much documentation on,
Right.
on what's there.
Okay.
It is larger than a 600
Okay, yeah.
gallon tank for sure. I would say minimum double that, but we would have to go back and look at the permits that were pulled previously.
One more question about the septic. How many times do you empty that septic?
Since 2020, it's been emptied twice. Most recently last week,
And how much do they take out?
all of it.
And how much is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I
It's
mean,
not on your invoice?
The invoice is handled by my manager. I could get that if you would like it as a follow-up. But I have a property manager that deals and addresses things like this. So he handles this sort of thing for me. And so I did not see the actual invoice for the pump.
I mean, I will say as a resident of GMF, I mean, I do have to empty, again, there's only, 3 of us, in my residence. We do have to empty our tank. We have certainly done it a lot more than twice since 2022, but
I think the recommendation, I don't know if you remember that, was the recommendation that we got from the people that serviced it is said for the amount of people was every 2 years.
Right.
So that's.
That was what they recommended. And on that note, again, I'm open to suggestions. I mean, if to keep the peace, we pay for the septic to be pumped yearly, I would gladly do that. I would gladly do that.
okay. So that's what's going to be important, I think, at the end of the day with this, because this is going to set a huge example for like the rest of the town, STRs and residents is it's going to be a lot bigger than you guys and Miss Snow over there.
Without a doubt. And like I said, I would be glad to have those conversations and be a part of the solution. I really would.
Do you like the idea? Would you be comfortable with the idea of like 3 vehicles and making sure that the septic is squared away? I'm not necessarily saying like quarterly. I mean, this is something that obviously is going to be, open up to the rest of the board and town staff on this matter.
So I'm open to the discussion about the septic.
Okay.
Obviously, it's up to you about my parking. That is one thing that I want to push back on, though, because again, we're looking at a driveway, as she refers to it, that is actually a perpetual non-exclusive easement, which literally loops into my driveway and out to Iona. So it goes, so if you're going backwards, so Iona, and it loops completely around to Cottage, okay? And it's one continuous loop. If that were available, as it should be, to my guess, there would be no issue at all. I don't think there's an issue as it stands because I've been driving since I was 16, and since I was 16, I was able to back out of a driveway. And I don't mean to be, mean about that. I'm just saying that the fact that is an issue that is being brought here, that somehow this should be disallowed because people would have to actually dare to back out of a driveway. To me, that's ludicrous. People can back out of my driveway and there can be 5 spots there, but if you say there should be 3, then there'll be 3.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I've worked for Uncle Sam for years and ironically, obviously for this board, I have to say, that everybody should be a little reluctant to get government involved over issues that hopefully, that the hope is that, as members of the community, we can all get together and sing Kumbaya and agree on something. So, if we can tackle this at the lowest level, short term for a resolution, for both parties' sake, it's probably the best, most amicable way we can do this short term. I mean, there is a lot of discussion that we're going to be having pretty soon here with like code rewrites and how we're going to tackle like STRs, utilizing, examples of possibly like Boulder or other cities.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, of course, in Boulder, they do have, there's a long list of things you got to do. I mean, you got to, that septic's going to get checked out. Unfortunately, for a lot of older septic units at STRs, that means a lot of money in the short term, like I said, I think it's very important to recognize that this is going to be a very essential, very important example of the rest of the town, residents and STRs, owners like yourselves, because this is,
Yeah, and I'll go on record, I'll go on record saying, I hope we don't become bolder.
Yeah.
I really do. And that's not a statement about not having regulations because I want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
I don't want to be lumped in with vacation renters who threaten residents of this town. I don't want to be lumped in with that. We haven't had that.
You would feel comfortable because we are such a small community, possibly hashing this out, whether it was an issue of parking and it's something that she would want to, she threw out 3. I don't know. She threw out 3 vehicles and something possibly with the septic, just to, maybe it's not, again, like every 3 months or 4 months, like something quarterly, but that's something that you guys would be able to entertain as neighbors.
Well, we certainly would be open to it. But as I said before, I found that there's not a thing that I can do to appease Kathy. And so that is my concern is that,
Roger. Yeah. And I'm tracking that.
We've attempted on numerous occasions to come to some agreement and she's not satisfied.
With a show of a hand back there, if there were 3 vehicles.
Hey, let's not get into a debate here.
Right.
Okay.
I agree, but
Yeah, I'm not going to allow us to get into a debate.
okay.
Okay.
So here's what I would
With the
say. I'm fine with 3 vehicles. As I said, we have a memo of understanding with our neighbor. And to your point, this is how neighbors should be.
Okay.
My neighbor and I had a conversation. We wrote up a document that said, I have access to his property on an as-needed basis for parking. If we need to use that, we will. And we came to that without you guys being involved in it, which is a wonderful thing, right? Like we had a conversation about it. And so we have that access and we'll use it if we need to. I could go with 3.
Yeah, you've gone significantly over 9 minutes, so I need to give again opportunity to the opposing side to recomment. But I'm gonna limit.
Can I clarify something here real quick? Just on I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware. So the 10969 Iona, which is the one that already has existed, that is a 2-bedroom, 6 max occupancy with 3 vehicles allowed. This new one is same occupancy and bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 6 occupancy with 2 vehicles allowed. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's how the applications have been processed in the system to this point.
And so just
Again,
Wait,
excuse
it's
me,
got to go to her. Sunday had a question.
excuse me. You're out of line. Thank you.
What is your residence address? I didn't hear that in the beginning. Where you live?
We live in Colorado Springs now. So it's 6032 Cowan Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, to try to equal time, 6 minutes be enough? I'm going to
More
set a
than
timer and then we're going to call it quits.
More than enough.
Okay.
I'm so sorry that my personality had to be slandered because I tried to keep it factual and not attack you, Brad. Is that an improvement survey or is that a legal, like $1,200 real survey? If it's an improvement survey, it's not necessarily true. And I am working with my title company right now and getting documentation. And so far they've shown me nothing that it really is what his document says. But there's a huge history in that poor little road, driveway, whatever it is. The Kramers owned it down below me. The people couldn't sell the house to me because it didn't have enough acreage and it was landlocked. Mr. Kramer's grandfather deeded it to the people, the whole driveway. I have to get my hands on that deed. If that deed does not say it is an easement, it may not be an easement. Also, my driveway used to be the only way anybody could get up to any of the houses up there. So before Iona existed, it kind of was an easement because everybody used it, but it was never labeled a road or anything. And the Kramers owned it. Then they deeded it to me, and Iona was built. I'm still going back, trying to find the deeds and the actual deed where it was passed over to the owner before me. So I'm working on that. Hearsay for the realtor. 2 feet from my property, not from my house, is what I said. I'm guessing the septic was the issue a couple weeks ago when the house basement kept overflowing. I don't know. They finally got it after 2 floods, they got the septic.
No, there was not. I disagree.
Okay, well, so I don't know what that was, but the septic was immediately pumped, like after the second time that it happened. The septic is pretty high, so it's possible. I haven't been in the house, that the toilet's lower, I don't know. But keeping that septic pumped is going to be a huge issue. And I did not get responses from him on some of my nice emails, and I'm always saying, or nice texts for the most part. Can we have them come in earlier? That was never addressed. We have not sat down and talked about anything, which is what I tried to do before coming to you and doing it in this avenue, just so you know. At one time, he wanted to do some snow removal for me, and I told him no, and he did it anyway. And I don't think it went very well. Never did it after that, so I was thankful for that. Since it is an easement, if it is an easement, it would still be my property, and I would think I would take care of it. I would remove the snow when I need to, not somebody else who doesn't actually own the property. So I don't know what that, if that's an improvement survey. I'm prepared to get an official full $1,200 survey if I need to, if I don't find out from the title company what I need to about the flag lot I own. Any questions? Thank you.
So I would just comment and remind, so the easement issue is nothing that is concerned with the short-term rental application itself. That's, a civil dispute essentially. The septic, there's no specific rule in code for short-term rentals. There is one snippet of code that basically says that the town basically reserves the right to ensure that wastewater can be treated, but it's not related to short-term rentals. It's not really related to particular zone code. It's sort of this reservation of right, but the town has not used that on any short-term rental application to this point. So I don't feel like it's really a fair thing to do at this point, but I will show, just throwing that out there. And so I think that the parking issue potentially could have if both properties allowed 2, so there's 4, 2 each or something, maybe that's a compromise. That's all I've got.
Is staff convinced they've met the code requirements for the application?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are you convinced the applicant has met all of the code requirements for a short-term rental application?
Yes.
Trustees, any further discussion?
Well, I will make a comment that I have several short-term rentals around my property as well. And it's been having communication between the parties that are involved is really the only way things are going to be solved. We can regulate, we can make rules, we can do all these things. But when it deteriorates, the communication deteriorates. It's difficult to make a rule to fix that. You know, it's really tough. I know one of my short-term rentals near my house, they voluntarily limited the amount of cars that they would allow parked just because we have limited space in the neighborhood, and people parking on the road would actually block the road. So we were able to have that communication, and the rental owners around me are receptive to phone calls and things like that. You know, law enforcement involvement is very limited in what they can do as well. So hopefully some resolution will be able to be worked out between the parties, and we'll try to do what we can when we come to making rules that will be equitable for everybody. It's difficult though, if the communication breaks down, for sure.
Is there any other discussion from the trustees? And so we are voting on the appeal.
The appeal.
Okay. Do trustees wish to make any statements regarding this type of matter? I would like to make a statement if I could. I view us as a quasi judicial entity, and this is also, in my opinion, a protected property right. And as such, I'll be looking at it purely with respect to the information that's presented and what's in our code. If there's no other discussion or statements, I'd entertain a motion.
I'm not sure how to word the motion.
We would probably either move to approve or deny the appeal. I believe this way would, I think that's the way it would have to be.
Well, based on the rules that we have in place, and that the corrections that were made, I would say that at this time, the appeal would motion that the appeal be denied.
Again, for the same reasons, I will go ahead and second that. It's been moved and seconded that we deny the appeal, basically based on our code requirements. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Sunday, did I hear you?
Yes,
You were aye.
I did.
Was anyone nay? Appeal fails. But I would encourage you all to join us on the 26th. What I'm thinking about is in Sally Bush, they have roundtables. And I haven't discussed this with town manager yet, but what I'd like to do is basically say, list issues and list potential mitigations for each issue, try to keep it simple and have roundtable discussions. I'll try to float around amongst the tables. And then at the end of the time period, we'd have each table report out. And then we'll take that information and we'll try to develop hopefully some more meaningful code.
Will that be here soon?
It'll be down Sally Bush building down here in Green Mountain Falls. 6:30. Yep.
Thanks all.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 8, our vendor invoice acknowledgement reports.
So yeah, we talked a little bit about this in the work session, but as was requested last meeting, I put a discussion item on here just in regard to format of future accounting reports coming to the board. The previous version was corrected as not being a true accounts payable list for accounts payable approval list. So I renamed it to a non-auto pay vendor invoice list. And it was discussed that what the board has been seeing and continues to see is essentially an acknowledgement of those outgoing checks. For the purpose of this item and further discussion, I listed all of the auto pays that I found. One addition to this list is a Comcast bill of $300 that I believe is monthly, but I still need to follow up on to confirm. Other auto debits that essentially occur, they're not technically auto debits, I guess, but the payroll and the associated taxes are debited from the main checking account monthly as well, based on the each unique payroll. And the retirement matches to employees also come out based on the payroll calculations. So I guess the question or discussion is, how does the board wish to see this information in the future? I would say that the best way would be to do it in conjunction with month-end bank reconciliations, which we are not currently caught up on. We're still trying to finish out 2021 for audit purposes. And so it would take us some time to get caught up on all that process, particularly with respect to my time and the ongoing planning duties.
Trustees, do we have any further discussion on this? So could we maybe summarize the proposal that was kind of talked about during our working session? It was a monthly.
It would be to change from the current approval of accounts payable after the fact to moving to a monthly month-end bank statement reconciliation.
So our role would be to acknowledge that. Okay.
Yeah, much as other communities do. I think we've just been doing it a little bit differently in the past.
Trustees, any further comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that we've changed to an end of the month bank statement. That's reconciliation, excuse me. A statement of reconciliation from the bank on a monthly basis that will be presented to the board for our recognition.
Acknowledgement.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we, it was long-winded. It's recorded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hi.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item number 9, reports. Trustee reports. And I started that direction last time, so I'll go this direction.
No.
Nick?
None to report.
Sean?
No, I don't have anything.
Catherine?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
I'll report the mayor's forum went well. The presentation is out on our webpage. We need to rethink what color we use for text. Yeah, it was hard to see.
Okay.
I do have a little 1-page list that my wife took notes on. Some interesting things. you know, a lot of folks seem to be maybe favorable for looking at updating Marshall's office. Obviously, some of the parks with the geese was a concern. Couple specific items that I'll leave off for here. And I also mentioned that we're about ready to, that we're anticipating hitting our short-term rental limit of 60 probably by about the end of the summer. And I'm also gonna probably talk to CDOT when I'm at the PPACG. Comment came up about the sign on Highway 24 where it used to say Green Mountain Falls and Chipeta Park, and now it just says Chipeta Park Road. So I may ask him if there's a process that we can do to request a change. And moving on to, if there's nothing else in item number 9, we'll go, is there any staff reports you need to go over?
We did our staff reports last week. Since then, I did learn a little bit more information on highway striping. We talked about crosswalks last time. I didn't realize that Public Works had budgeted in highway striping as part of their plan for maintenance this summer. So that'll be something really easy to add that crosswalk into that. It'll cost a little bit more, but probably just as much as buy and paint ourselves. So we'll go ahead and add those crosswalks into that. In order to do that, we do need to get the roads swept. And so I'm anticipating that our neighbors from El Paso County will be able to assist us and bring up their street sweeper. So once that occurs, we owe them a big thank you.
How about material? Have we made any progress with?
I've been calling everybody I know. We're still working on getting road base. I know that Dusty was hoping to get some in this week. But talking to our colleagues, our counterparts at the various counties, they have sent us some leads, just following up with who has the right type of road base that has the appropriate level of plasticity to make it stick to the ground. We could certainly throw decomposing Pikes Peak gravel on it, but it's likely to end up just filling up our culverts. And I think that we also had our, we're able to use the vac truck from Woodland Park. Did we get that?
They're coming in this week, hopefully tomorrow, Thursday.
Perfect.
They're coming up to help us clear up some of the culverts throughout town.
Most specifically, the big culvert that's next to the church there that goes under the road. It's a very large culvert and it's very packed full of dirt. So the guys have worked it to try to jet water into it, and it's just not breaking free. Hopefully with that vac truck getting that culvert fixed, we'll be able to alleviate any additional sediment from running into the church parking lot and across the road there.
Any word on the triangle?
The guys are they measured today, they're installing tomorrow and the next day, hopefully have it done for the weekend. And I need to follow up with Lisa and just let her know, but I did tell her that she could plan for the weekend for planting.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And you may see the mayor out on an ATV. I'm going to go out tomorrow morning, have Public Works check me out. So, you know, we know we're behind. And, you know, that's just, I've got a box blade that'll actually mount on the back end of an ATV. So we may have them try to check me out tomorrow. And if it works, we may have a little additional asset.
Yeah, our newest pilot project.
Yeah. Mayor on ATV. As long as it's got low gear and 4-wheel, it should be good.
Is our wood chipper working? It is. Any plans to get it out? I just had some community members ask if we could set up a wood chipping day.
It'd be awesome. I need to follow up with the fire chief as well to see if he was able to lock down a couple of dates to use the county chipper also.
Yeah, that's a real good chipper.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yep.
I'll follow up. I'll have an update for you soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other reports? Moving on to item 10, any correspondence?
You heard
It is 8:14. We are adjourned.